If you can remember where like the initial inspiration for the story began, like if it was a character, a scene, an idea.
Yeah, it was definitely a character. Like, I guess it was sort of a combination of like this throwaway pitch I came up with in grad school, because you have to come up with like these log lines for like screenplays that never get written. And one of mine was like, Julian Assange finds out about the aliens. And but really, like the story proper was just I was kind of always toying with this, like I wanted to write a first contact thing, and I kind of vaguely knew I wanted it to be kind of in a Beauty and the Beast vein, but I just remember, it's like I'd kind of joke that I feel like the inspiration, the real one, was probably the same as Guillermo del Toro's for The Shape of Water, which is this promotional still from The Creature from the Black Lagoon, that is like, it's a picture of the gill man and like his leading lady in a swimsuit, and I think it's meant to look like a dancing pose. It's like a pretty famous picture, and I just remember scrolling on Tumblr one day and seeing it and just being like, that's it. But it kind of took me a while, and by a while I mean like 5 years, to actually, be willing to go there with it. Like, because like at first I was very like coy and chicken shit about it, because like the original drafts of this were very different, like in terms of the core relationship.
I did want to go back and ask you a little bit about Hank Green's book, because I do think it's really interesting.
The only comp title. Well, it's funny, like we couldn't find any comp titles, but it is kind of funny like how much they have in common, because it's just like this incredibly highly specific niche of YouTubers who wrote books about young women becoming the point of contact with an individual alien that is the representative of a civilization. But I think it's also kind of a result of like, similar preoccupations, because it's like, what is the appeal of any kind of first contact narrative? It's like a lot of speculation, and whenever you're not dealing with an invasion story, I think there is, there's something kind of intrinsically interesting about wondering what outside eyes would see looking at us as we are now, and like, creating a lens that, through which we can examine our own humanity and our own civilization. And I think that's just, the fact that they took the form that they did was just because we kind of wanted to write, modern narratives and be able to tie it in with like, both are very tied in with the internet, but very different types of the internet. Like his version is, he's like more preoccupied with like fame and influencer culture, and mine, I guess, is sort of more of like a Web 2.0, where it's more preoccupied with like, the way the internet made, transparency issues much more accessible to the mainstream audience. So it's like, they're both very internet centric, but in very different ways.
And I did want to ask you about, you're currently working on the second book in the series. I guess like generally, the first one ends on a cliffhanger that we don't want to spoil, but what can you tease about what that process has been like, and also how, the current state of the world has or hasn't affected the story you're telling?
The second one, it's kind of funny, is in a weird way was inspired by Transformers 2, the worst movie in arguably all of human history. Because
bad stories can be very inspirational.
Yeah. Because I remember like after the first one came out, like the Transformers fandom was like, okay, well, we can work with this. Maybe, very naively was like, maybe it will get better. And then the WGA strike happened, and like the second movie was just awful. But like my feeling about the first movie was like, this has a lot of interesting setup, particularly, with regard to the first contact element. And then in the second movie, humanity discovers like, oh, there are aliens here. And it is just the stupidest, laziest, like it's like the Fallen, right? And he gets on like a PA system and he's like, hey, I'm here, everybody, check me out. And it was so fucking lame. And I was just like, Michael Bay didn't consider that an interesting premise to build his movie around, which is, something that, in first contact narratives I hadn't really seen, which is, the revelation of an alien presence on Earth, but life goes on, like it's not a revelation contact style, they don't show up, impart wisdom and leave. It's just like, we have to live with this now. And what would the societal fallout of that look like? So that was kind of the one I had in my head first, which is the second book, which is called Truth of the Divine. But I guess in light of the first one's rewrite, because I actually did write a draft of it, like back in 2014, 2015. And I had to completely throw it out, like 100% of it, because the focus of it was more like I wasn't leaning into the just this idea of societal fallout. And because people talk a lot about like if aliens did show up, that would just like wreck everything, just like our self-image, our like how we see ourselves, like what our place in the universe is. But I feel like people say that, but they don't really paint a picture of what that might look like. And like in this universe, like what it looks like is a lot of instability that doesn't really have anything to do with the aliens. It has to do with us, because again, like first contact narratives, they're not really about aliens, they're about us. And so that is the sort of the backdrop